So now that we've performed this excerpt, this piece actually, I would like to offer you some suggestions as you prepare for your audition. Just some general comments about Baroque music. In the modern period, we tend to play slow movements of Baroque music far too slow, and we tend to play fast movements far too fast. So you will notice in my recording that the first movement actually is moving along, and the second movement is not at breakneck speed. In fact, the metronome marking would be very similar. The tempo is more a question of style. So for the first movement, don't try and play it too slow. You will never make it to the end. This piece is very exhausting. And for the fast movement, if you go too fast, it won't sound impressive. It will sound messy and frantic. So I choose a tempo that will let me play gracefully and cleanly. Now, in the Baroque period, we tend to add ornamentation. I did not put any ornaments in my performance because I can never get a clear answer from adjudicators whether they want you to embellish their music or not. If you're wanting to, places in this slow movement where there's a dotted note or a tied note as we approach the end of a phrase would be a good place to add a trill, and you would put in a trill from above. So let me show you one of those. Find a good one. I'm going to play from measure 28, and there's in measure 31 there's a dotted quarter F sharp, and I'm going to add a trill to that note. So here's measure 28. So that's one example. I don't have a definitive answer for you as to whether you should do that or not. My recommendation is probably not to ornament, just play exactly what's written. But you could discuss that with your band director. Okay, so for the first movement, much slower than this, and it's going to sound really boring. The phrases are not too long. I'd like you to try and play very smoothly to the middle of the phrase and then back. But Baroque music in general tends to be about more fragments of melody rather than long embellished lines. So what you'll hear is I try and find high spots and low spots, for example, here at the beginning. That seems to be one concluding statement, although we're still under the first slur. So I played up, and then for the next section, the next bar, I'll play down. So you want to try and find little things like that to make your performance more interesting. Breathing is the main concern with this piece. You're going to have to plan. Since you have to record this in one take, and you can't go in the middle, you don't want to get all the way to the end and then make a mistake with your breathing and have to go back and play the whole thing again. There's going to be a limited number of times that you'll be able to record this before you're tired. So please practice it ahead of time and mark your breaths in, and don't forget to breathe out. And what I noticed when I was performing it for you, even though I told myself to do that, I still breathed mainly in, and by the end I was getting pretty full of air, and there's nowhere left to go. So you can help avoid that if you mark spaces in your music where you breathe out, and then you play another bar, a few bars, and then you breathe back in. I can't tell you where those things are, but you have to be careful when you breathe. It's got to be at a natural point in the music, like at the end of a phrase. You can shorten a long note sometimes to take a breath. It's going to become more important as you get to the end. So if you don't do anything else ahead of time, you need to plan where your breathing is going to be. And then there's these rallentandos that are marked at sort of random places throughout this. These are editorial markings, and so I would not go overboard with them. Just a little bit to help gently end the phrase. So if I play for you again at measure 28, there's a phrase that ends on the downbeat of measure 32. So I'm going to play once without a retard, and then I will add a retard. So here's 28. So when I play it that way, it eliminates all sense that something just ended and something else is beginning, and it just makes it monotonous. So I'll add a slight retard. And then the tempo, the new phrase continues in the original tempo. Okay, so basically, be aware of your breathing. Be aware of the small phrases that are underneath these large editorial slurs, and try and have the warmest tone that you can come up with on that day. Don't practice a lot right before you record this. You need to be able to make it from the beginning to the end with a very sweet sound. If you have a developed vibrato, this is a great time to use it to help you connect your notes together, but it's not required. You can still make wonderful music without vibrato. So if I play at the beginning, so no matter whether it's vibrato or not, focus on each note moving to the next note so that the phrase is maintained. So the second movement, the allegro, again, be careful with the tempo. We tend to play it too fast. It needs to be more jaunty and cheerful rather than fast and frantic. When you have a slur that is followed by a staccato, stop the end of the slur a little bit early. So the first thing you play, don't do this, but instead lift off the end of the slur. Bum, ba-da-dee, da-da. So that there's lots of energy in the upward gesture. So especially in this second movement, find the small motives and small melodic ideas. Don't try and play long phrases. So let me demonstrate the beginning for you without the piano. So you heard me with lots of separation, good air support, playing through things. So moving notes are not that important. It's more important that they move to something. So try not to play beat-a-da, 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 beat-a-dum, 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 beat-a-dum. And that will keep the music moving forward, and it will actually make it sound like you're playing faster than you are, while you're still in control because you chose a good tempo. Okay, so those are some general suggestions that I have. I wish you the best of luck as you make your recording. Thank you.